BioTransplant Incorporated case study presented by Team 4. We want to start the presentation off with a quick fact sheet about BioTransplant, as well as its founder, president, and CEO, Elliot Leibowitz. Elliot launched BioTransplant back in 1990 with a focus on anti-rejection pharmaceuticals for organ transplants. Its main concentration focused on two forms of organ transplants. The first was mismatched human-to-human organ transplants, and the second was transplanting mini pig organs into human patients. BioTransplant launched in 1990 with $1 million in seed funding from Healthcare Investment Corporation, which is actually the largest venture capitalist corporation in the healthcare industry. Now, even with this $1 million in seed funding from Healthcare Investment Corporation, BioTransplant is scheduled to run out of money around 1998 or within the next 3 years. BioTransplant is currently working on 4 projects, the first of which is called the Xenoimmune System. The Xenoimmune System serves 2 purposes. The first of which is to trick the human immune system into accepting the donor organs from the mini pigs. The second purpose it serves is that this helps mitigate the problem of the shortage of donor organs that the healthcare industry is currently experiencing. Elliot entered into a 10-year agreement with Massachusetts General Hospital in order to develop the research for Xenoimmune System. And in this agreement, Massachusetts General Hospital wanted all the royalties that came from Xenoimmune System. So this is limiting the profit potential BioTransplant could be receiving from Xenoimmune System. Xenoimmune System is currently in its research and preclinical stage, and the case says that BioTransplant hopes to have Xenoimmune System ready for market around 2000. However, after looking into the case a little bit deeper and looking at the FDA approval process, it looks like it's going to be ready for market around 2008. The second project BioTransplant is working on is called Alloimmune System. Alloimmune System is a modified xenoimmune system technology. It's used to investigate the transplantation of human organs that are not the same tissue type as the patient's organs. It's currently in the investigator-sponsored human study phase with hopes of going to market around 1999. However, again, due to the lengthy FDA process, we're estimating that it's going to be more likely around 2004 that'll be ready for market. The third project BioTransplant is working on is called BTI 322, and it focuses on the treatment of graft versus host cell disease. It's currently in phase 1 and 2 with hopes of going to market around 1999. Again, due to the lengthy FDA approval process, it's estimated to go to market around 2003. The final product or project BioTransplant is working on is called Medi 500, and this addresses the treatment of acute rejection. Currently in phase 3, BioTransplant hopes to have Medi 500 go to market around 1998 or 1999. BioTransplant is currently experiencing a few problems. The first of which is BioTransplant needs new capital to fund their long-term corporate agenda. They're also experiencing limited avenues to raise money, and they have a crucial need to develop short-term products to provide cash flow. They also have no products that can generate revenues to allow the company to be self-sustaining. While BioTransplant has many problems, such as the ones we listed earlier, the main problem for BioTransplant is that it needs to secure an additional funding source in order for them to reach their long-term corporate objectives of developing, manufacturing, and marketing their revolutionary organ transplant technology. There are many symptoms that led to BioTransplant's core problem. The first of which, BioTransplant requires constant outside investments to survive, and they've already entered into multiple agreements with various agencies. The lead time between innovation and marketability is inhibiting the launch time for the products that BioTransplant is currently working on. The main 4 products are years away from approvals due to the lengthy FDA approval process. Also, BioTransplant has minimal visibility in the marketplace. There's no competitive advantage at this point for BioTransplant, and they currently have a limited sole source of supplier of mini pigs until Xenoimmune System is ready for market. They're competing in a highly competitive industry, and they have high overhead costs of developing new drugs and therapies. Next, we want to talk about funding BioTransplant through an IPO. Now, BioTransplant tried to launch an IPO back in 1994, but it failed to do so due to the market conditions at that time. An IPO is very expensive. It has the potential to cost anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 just to make an attempt, and it also takes away man hours from research and development just to find an underwriter and to find investors. It also takes about a minimum of 6 months just to launch an IPO. And timing is critical for BioTransplant to find a valuable IPO window. So a secondary IPO is more valuable to BioTransplant at this time. BioTransplant resides in an industry with a high level of competition and funding requirements. BioTransplant has already sold rights to technology just to survive, and biotech firms average a 2-year lifespan. Product developments require substantial allocations of capital and time, which increases the difficulty in producing a product that can generate a profit and make the company self-sustaining. Given that the company has already utilized many of the available methods to acquire funding, it has developed the need to find a new resource of capital. As I mentioned, most biotechnology companies survive for about 2 years, and because of these conditions, BioTransplant has developed alliances with pharmaceutical companies and sold rights to its products and technology in order to survive over the past 6 years. The option of an IPO provides BioTransplant with a new source of capital, and it allows for the generation of capital for the long term. This ability will prove beneficial, being that it will fund the company for several years to come and allow it to further develop its research into marketable technologies. Our solution to BioTransplant's funding problem is an IPO. BioTransplant should pursue an IPO in order to achieve their funding goals because this option provides the best solution to their long-term success. The average IPO raised from third quarter and fourth quarter 1995 was $38 million. And based on the market performance, BioTransplant has the potential to raise $112 million through follow-on offerings. This will allow BioTransplant to continually raise capital over the company's life cycle. So how does BioTransplant implement an IPO? The first thing Elliott needs to do is inform his board of directors and the company executives of his decision. Second, he needs to disseminate the initiative across the company. The IPO needs to take place within the next 8 to 10 months, and Elliott needs to select Cohen & Company as the underwriter for the IPO given their experience in this area. BioTransplant needs to develop a campaign plan to educate the public and other investors on what the company does, where they are headed, and what should be expected. This will create customer awareness and expectation management. The next step will be to allocate funding for the IPO process. Elliott will need to hire the required financial auditors and to prepare financial statements which will be required for an IPO. And finally, they would need to develop and implement an employee training program to educate the company's employees about the requirements and responsibilities of being a public company. Before deciding that the IPO is the best way for BioTransplant to receive funding, we did take a look at some alternatives. The first of which was a venture capitalist. Currently, HCIC owns 49.9% of BioTransplant, which leaves little motivation for another venture capitalist company to fund BioTransplant. It's also not a viable source of long-term funding, and venture financing is on the rise, but mostly for startup companies, and BioTransplant is past the startup phase. We also looked at a research alliance, but BioTransplant would have to relinquish additional proprietary technology, which is something Elliott does not want to do. And they've also already formed an alliance with MedImmune and Sandoz for 2 of their current products. The final alternative that we looked at was for BioTransplant to partner up with an institutional investor. However, the problem with this is that it's limited to market and visibility and does not secure any long-term approach. Also, this type of partnership has been on the decline since 1993, so it really serves no benefit to BioTransplant and their long-term goals. During the next few slides, we want to talk about some of the fallout and risk mitigation BioTransplant may encounter. The first of which is the lack of marketable short-term products. Having no short-term products to generate profits will make customer expectation management very difficult. So our solution to this problem would be to develop a milestone plan that can be provided to investors. This will provide an avenue for the firm to demonstrate its progress and keep investors interested. The second issue BioTransplant may face will be the additional reporting and regulation requirements after going to an IPO. The company will be required to openly report its financial positions, provide a prospectus, current operations, and other valuable information which could diminish its competitive position. So the solution to this would be for BioTransplant to focus on its research and technology to create differentiation between it and its competitors. If the company can maintain its proprietary technology and capitalize on it, the publicized information they are required to provide will be less of a danger to the company. The next issue would be educating the public. The lack of a public image for BioTransplant and an understanding of the biotechnology industry by the general public could be problematic for the company. So the solution would be to leverage the company's alliances with hospitals, universities, and pharmaceutical companies to develop and implement a media campaign that demonstrates what the company does and what it's going to work towards. This will motivate people for a cause and entice them to stay connected. It also creates awareness for numerous other groups of people, which could generate more interest. And finally, maintaining rights to products and technologies. BioTransplant has commonly released rights of its technology and products to other parties to raise capital. This strategy diminishes what the company can earn on what it develops. The solution is the firm must be more stringent on what and how much it decides to release. If it does release rights, it should always maintain some aspects that can be utilized to generate profits. In conclusion, BioTransplant only has 3 years of funding left in reserves. We recommend starting the IPO process immediately. And to mitigate risks, they should follow the IPO launch implementation plan, which we have laid out in this demonstration. We project the IPO and secondary IPO could fund the company's long-term goals. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to your feedback. Thank you.